after that, like it all changed. And I get people that DM me or leave comments on my videos on YouTube and for the podcast. And they're like, how am I not seeing this? Or how am I not seeing any posts from you? I had to come to your page because I saw something that I thought about you or whatever. And I came to your page. I realized I haven't seen your story in 6 months. Like all of this stuff, my own friends don't see my stuff. My friends that I've had way before the show, they told me a couple of weeks ago, like, I never see your stuff. And sometimes I just go to your page to see what your podcast is about or what you're up to or what you're saying, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing, like I might get more listeners and people hearing what I have to say going on a small podcast than I am from my social media platform, which was supposed to be payment for my time on the show.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because they just have so much control over all of it that you will, especially if you have any kind of dissenting voice. And this isn't just reality TV. This is everywhere, right? Social media will deplatform you or suppress your platform on anything you want to talk about that may not be the mainstream narrative or the narrative that's being pushed about these things. Now, that being said, I can guarantee you that if I were to change my style and start talking about the gossip of reality TV shows, and I mean, I'd be back in the algorithm in no time. But I choose not to because that's not who I am. But I watch other people do it, and I'm like, have some integrity, like care about something. It's really hard to see that. But anyway.
Oh my gosh, I've been talking about that really publicly because, I have always been someone who's advocated for social justice issues. I'm a history teacher, especially as a public school teacher in New York City. Like, it's something that I've spoken about constantly, always, and I'm LA. And so when you get into the TV world, it's never explicitly stated, at least it was never stated to me, don't talk about politics, but there is definitely a very conservative lean in the 90-day world. The people who have shows and shows and shows and shows, 100% of them are very conservative. So those of us who do speak out about things like, what we're currently dealing with in Palestine, I went from getting 2,000 or 3,000 views on my stories to when I started talking about this, there was a morning where I woke up and 35 people had seen my stories from the night before. It was the same week that I was launching an apparel line. And I was like, I have to sit here and choose between my business that I have built, that I kept alive during COVID, that I kept alive during reality TV, that I've been able to maintain through all of this. I have to choose between that and standing up for what I believe in. And it was really, really hard for me to, make the decision that, like, I'm not going to be silenced. I'm not going to keep my mouth shut. What I am going to do is bring it to the attention of Meta. And I'm in, like, these Meta creators groups on Facebook. And so I just very clearly said, here's my stats. Here's my analytics from last month. Here's the exact moment that I started talking about this thing. Here are my analytics. Explain that to me. All of a sudden, my views were amazing. So,
really?
Yeah.
Can you send me those groups? Because, I started looking when I noticed after all of that stuff. If I was talking, like when I was having a little back and forth with, Nick Vile or I would go on a reality TV show podcast. Those would do fine, right? Like those shared would be, but if it was me talking about something or me speaking up about the SAG strikes or whatever that is, I'd go look at my stats before it was 25-30% my followers, the rest was non-followers. Now if I get down to 95% my followers, that's a win. It's usually 98% my followers and then 2-3% not. So I'm in an echo chamber of people. And so it's just, the more you're in an echo chamber, like the more who your supporters are, right? Yeah. But at the same time, like the message just, it's almost like propaganda to the point where it's like, okay, I get it. Like, shut up. You know what I mean? And so that becomes very challenging to do. On a regular basis when like you're just saying the same thing to the same people all the time and you're just stuck in this like shadow band or no algorithm whatsoever. And then by the way, it becomes difficult to get people to come on your show because they can go see stuff like that. And like my podcast, YouTube also, my YouTube is so suppressed and shadow banned, it's unbelievable. I'll get like 2 new followers or subscribers a week. I probably get more messages a week of people saying, I can't believe this isn't a big story, than I get of subscribers. And it's wild.
One of the ways that I think we can circumvent this, and I learned this kind of early on in my business, that like you're never going to own the Meta platform. Even with TikTok, you're not going to own these social media platforms. The most important thing that you can have as a content creator or business owner is your email list. So every single person lands on your page in any way, you want to have their email address.
Yeah.
So that you're sending out weekly newsletters, however many new thousands of people show up on your page. Anybody who's been on their podcast, anybody on their network, if I share with my network, your podcast, so that, so your story and what you're creating is no longer controlled by these platforms that you're creating them on, but it's controlled by you. And you can push that out to the people who are on your list, who have signed up to hear from you and may share your stuff with other people. I also feel like making a call to like local news networks, like, in New York City, it used to be New York One, or, like some kind of local news network that would really benefit from having their hands on a big story like this. You might get like an eager journalist, whatever it is, the story that is setting us across. Like sometimes you get like eager journalists and like these little local news networks that could blow something up in a way that you can't, because you're being pushed, suppressed.
Well, and that's a good point. I'm actually meeting next week for a strategy session with my publicist, because I've got some big stuff coming down, UCAN related, and the thing. So we have a UCAN newsletter, which I haven't advertised that on my social in a while to get more names. I should do that. But what I think is so challenging is you went to this Facebook group, right? But there's no person to talk to. There's no contact us. There's no, here's your success manager. Like you would think. And even when I got, the blue check, it was because Netflix and Kinetic just got the blue check because they got the contacts.
We all wake up in the morning with the blue check.
And it's like, that's exactly.
Johan was like, you have a blue check. Why don't I have a blue check? Why do you have a blue check? I'm like, I don't know. I woke up with a blue check. It was amazing.
Fresh, and then it's there. It's crazy how they do that. And so, they've got those contacts and those different algorithms to make the same call to say, hey, put this guy here. And the way content's prioritized and the way we're all labeled on, if you go into like Facebook and stuff, they've got us all labeled politically so that they can keep us in certain algorithms. Like the way it's all just kind of owned by Meta, owned by TikTok, and they can do what they want. It is a suppression of free speech, in my opinion. But the fact that we have no one to talk to, like they can shut your business down. Like if you got shadow banned and you couldn't get yourself undone, it would devastate your business.
100%. Now, I don't leave my house. I don't leave my house. I do no in-person networking. Everything I do is on social media. If I lost my account, I'd be done. I don't even know how I'd handle that. Like, I have my email list, but like, I'm not sending emails 3 times a day. I'm not showing pictures of what I'm doing.
Well, that's going to get an unsubscribe anyway if you do that. Yeah. So we don't really control access to information, or I should say, we don't have control over the access we have to information. We really don't. And we're just being fed what people think we need to see and hear. And I think that people, as humans, we need to be more discerning about what is the information that I'm receiving and why. Like when you scroll through your Instagram feed, look at the ads, write them all down, right? Write down the first 5 ads you see, and then tell me what that says about who you are and what you do. When you go to Facebook or when you are on a streaming page, look at what people are pushing towards you and what is not being told. And this is what we teach kids when we're teaching them about media literacy. It's like everybody who's telling you a story has an agenda. Everybody. I have an agenda showing up to this podcast. You have an agenda having me on the show, right? We both have a purpose for being here. What is my agenda? I think it's important that people are more discerning. And that people really take ownership of their experiences, they establish their boundaries, and they separate themselves from the noise that's happening around them. Like online need is not about you, it's about them. And it's about something even bigger than them. It's not even about them. So like once you start to understand that, you can start to look at things a little bit differently. You have to criticize every single thing that you receive in your life. You have to start with, I'm being lied to. Prove me wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like what am I being told and why? And that's really important for us to do with all kinds of information, especially in the political climate that we're in, because it's so easy for a computer to craft a narrative for you to believe in.
You want to hear something crazy? So I agree, and I'm a harsh critic of the media in general. Like I have been for a long time, because when I was a journalist and editor in chief in college, college is, you're protected by the First Amendment in college, right? So it's the most pure form. In high school, a principal can censor the paper, and then in professional journalism, your advertisers censors you or you self-censor, right? So college is the purest form. Now you can have advertisers that can leave and school can readjust funding. I experienced all of that stuff, but they were putting so much pressure on me for writing hard-hitting investigative journalistic stories about what was going on at the school and how money was being spent and how a building was built and it wasn't up to code with the plumbing, like all of this crazy stuff. And there was so much pressure. It scared me as a 21, 22-year-old young man that I was like, I can't do journalism. Like, this is too scary. Like, I had to get a police escort at one point because of a story that I wrote. And so there was it taught me to be very critical of everything I'm getting fed now through social media, but in the media, in the news, the headlines. Like, never believe a headline for what it is. It's clickbait. It's the same thing with that video about you being what was it, a colonist?
Privileged colonizer.
Privileged colonizer, or Nick Thompson, homeless, blame show. Like, none of that's true. None of that's true. So I really encourage people, when you see something, as you're saying, ask yourself, why am I seeing this? What does this mean? And what's the opposing viewpoint? Because the truth is somewhere in between. And so when people say, oh, I can't believe you follow Donald Trump, it's like, guys, front runner for the president, I want to know what he's fucking saying. You know what I mean? It's like, or I can't believe that what was the other one I said? Oh yeah, I'm like, yeah, sometimes every now and then, like, I'll watch a video on Alex Jones. Oh, I'm like, guy's been right about a thing or two in his time, right? It's like, I just want to know, because when you have all the information or you have more information, there's two things. You can discern a truth that makes sense to you, which is probably a nuanced take. And then at the same time, you can also see what your peers are seeing on all sides of the spectrum. So you can have a more open conversation with them, as opposed to this, you're on one side, the other person on the other, everything's black and white and you hate each other. Like, that's where we're at right now. And you look at Israel and Palestine, I'm like, I had Dr. Jill Stein on my show about a month ago, who's the Green Party candidate for president. And one of the things that I like really wanted to talk to her about was, I feel like we've got this Israel-Palestine thing and people are like, and it's crazy, but I'm like, I actually think 90% of the people, not the governments, not Hamas, not Bibi Netanyahu, the people are like, we don't want this. We don't want anybody dying innocently. Yeah. Like, these are big things that, like, they're human beings too. Like, Israel has a right to exist. Hamas is terrorism. The people that are underneath these governments, like, they're innocent people. Yeah. So it's just, but you've got to pick a side, right? You've got to pick a side. And that's with everything. Are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? Are you this? Are you that? Do you support this person on a reality show, or do you think they were abusive? Like, there's nuance to everything.
There's no end.
There's no end.
There's no end. It's just this or that, that. Everything is black and white. There's no middle. When nothing is black and white, nothing. No. There's not one thing that is black and white. There's no evidence that anything is black and white. So I don't even know. It's really our two-party system that makes people believe that things are two-sided. Like, we've created this idea that there is this or this, and that there are two sides, where the evolution of what Democrat actually means, like, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican and freed the slaves. Like, Democrats were the fucking devil. Like, they were awful. They ran the Confederacy. Like, the evolution of the Democratic Party as, like, the social justice warriors of the political system, which is also fictional. But, like, that shows that this two-party system is completely made up. And it's about, where the money's coming from. So, like, that, creating that structure. And they're all bought and paid
for by the same people, which is why we're fighting over stupid shit like gender and bathrooms and is Trump going to be a dictator? It's like we're fighting about these crazy ass things, which, by the way, no one I think has ever, and I don't like Trump, but that guy gets misrepresented in the headlines every day. Like Trump says he's going to be a dictator, and you go and like listen to the interview, and he said, I'm going to be a dictator on day one for two things. I'm going to close the border and I'm going to drill for oil in this country so we can get gas prices under control. So I'm like, that is totally different than a headline saying, and again, don't agree with that. Maybe the border, but don't agree with the drilling thing. But the fact that it's saying he's going to be a dictator, and that's what people are reading, and that's the narrative that they're telling, like, that's not accurate. That's not fair. That's a total misrepresentation. And again, like that, and like the fact that the evolution of the Democrats, like I got in this argument with my friend about this. I'm like, there's only one candidate or only one party that's removing presidential candidate from ballots. This was a few months ago. And I'm like, and that's the Democrats. And whether it's a good intention to save democracy or not, let's forget that. But let's remember that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And if censorship and fascism comes from the Democrat side, that doesn't mean it's good. That doesn't mean it's good because they're doing it with good intentions. So, but it's just this crazy divide, and you can't have nuanced conversations with people, and everybody wants black and white because it's easy, it's simple, and it doesn't require you to put energy in it. And it's the same with reality TV, right? You can just read the headline, form your opinion on someone, go spew it all over the internet, and not have any repercussions for it, even though you're the 10,000th person that said something horrible to this human being who's reading these DMs, whether they should or shouldn't, right? Debate, you can debate that, but it's just a very hostile, hateful, dividing environment that we're in. And it is from the two-party system, I think, and just this innate feeling that humans have that things need to be black and white.
Yeah, it's I hope that all of this like revolutionary I don't know if really like protest is the word that I'm looking for, but I think that right now there's a huge upheaval of like the young people saying, no, we're not buying any of this. We are not buying any of this. Like my son's generation, he's 23, like these college kids that we're seeing on campuses, like, you know, there's a little bit of like a danger in the groupthink mentality when everybody's yelling about shit that they don't know what they're talking about.
Totally agree.
But there is something to be said for so many people are revolting and asking for something different. Someone has to pay attention at some point. And I think that, you know, it's going to be a lot harder to maintain this two-party system for the next two election cycles. Like this one is kind of a wash and it's really scary and I don't know what's going to look like. But I think
it's going to be crazy. I don't think we're going to have a winner. I think
I honestly am not going to be in the country.
I might not either.
I'm going to be going somewhere else. But I hope that what we're seeing, the fucking chaos that we're experiencing, leads to major change and like an elimination of this like crazy two-party system, the electoral college, like all of these systems that are archaic and don't work.
Designed to control the elections, essentially.
Yeah, I feel like this might be the time where these things actually change.